is Michael Copey, and I will be hosting tonight's parade. Tonight is the 75th annual parade of the Village of Mamaroneck, all volunteer fire department. And I'll try to talk loud now as the parade is led off by the Village of Mamaroneck motorcycle unit that's coming behind me. They are going to be supported by motorcycle units from across the county. Police departments come here, so it's a wonderful tradition that we have that the police motorcycles will start the parade off. Okay. See, we're just stopped right there in front of the judges' booth, so the judges will take a look and evaluate every detail that comes through here. And so this evening, we have a number of judges, primarily ex-chiefs and ex-captains from the department, that will evaluate all of the apparatus, all of the personnel, so that we can provide awards to the best in each different category tonight. There's probably 40 or 50 different trophies that will go out. You see we have Mamaroneck, a couple of Mamaroneck, Ossining, Harrison. This is a pretty good showing of the motorcycle brigade here. Bit loud. Come by here, see the state trooper coming by, which is good to see. Tuckahoe, Yonkers. Great way to do traffic enforcement is using the motorcycle, especially crowd control details such as this. I don't know if you can hear me with that in the background. Going to let them pass for a second and we can go through. Now, so tonight the lead band will be the Danbury Drum Corps. They are routinely here in our parade, and they are leading us up. They make their way by the judges' booth. Always a quality band that comes to the parade here. Going to be followed tonight by this year's Grand Marshal. The Grand Marshal this year is past Chief Vincent Keck. Chief Keck, well-respected member of Columbia Engine and Hose Company, was chief about 20 years ago, 22 years ago, longtime public servant here in the Village of Mamaroneck. Chief Keck is going to be assisted by First Lieutenant from Columbia, Brian Williams. Up here. Gonna let, we're dead. Are we live? Are we live? Ready? Okay. After the Grand Marshal, we have the Mamaroneck Fire Department Color Guard. Firefighter Warren Powell, ex-Captain Salazzo, Firefighter Mark Vitetta, and Firefighter David Zenkel. We have the chiefs coming through. Chief Barney, Chief Yanuzzi, Chief Simpson, followed by Columbia Engine Hose Company number 2, celebrating 125 years of service to the village of Mamaroneck, led by Captain Gary DeSanctis. Columbia banner is carried by Riley and Ryder Hughes. We're glad to have them. Hopefully they'll become members someday. We have the Chiefs' cars following the detail. Next are our elected officials. I see a number of people coming through right now. Mayor Murphy, Deputy Mayor Young, Trustees Lucas, Rawlis, Yiser Reed, Village Manager, the Clerk Treasurer. Okay. Take a moment here just to let these pass by. I don't know what kind of car that is, but it is nice. Here comes the mayor, Mayor Murphy. Continuing a long tradition of our mayors serving the community. It's a thankless job, but I, for one, appreciate it, as I know many of the residents are. Being mayor of the community is difficult. Followed by a very old Cadillac there. Steve Otis. Steve, I'll let you know. I'm looking forward to having you sit. Nora? The Mamaroneck EMS coming through here. And again, celebrating a anniversary year, led by Chief Capalbo and Captain Teddy Caposo O'Rourke. 50 years of service to the community. Even I can remember when I was young, when the ambulance corps was starting out, before the Quadrini building was even there. So just tremendous volunteerism here in the village, and that's a classic example of it. Remember when the ambulances used to have to get purchased with stamps? Everybody would save the stamps and then donation drives. Largemont firefighters coming through. Distinctive helmets with the flames on top. Engine company number 1 from Largemont coming through here right now. Some historical equipment here that they've always brought up here. Well maintained, keeping tradition alive. Pull cart, small fire truck with the Dalmatian on the back. Always a crowd pleaser for many of the children that are here in attendance. With the old fire gear that was worn many, many years ago. Chief Keck, come on in. Here's our Grand Marshal. We're going to take our Grand Marshal as our first visiting. Chief, you stick around. Come on, Chief, jump in. Come on in here. Jump right over here. Pull it over here. The Grand Marshal. You ready? Thanks. So, Chief Keck, tell me, what's it like to be the Grand Marshal?
It's an honor, and we've been there. I've been chief before. I've had every rank in this fire department, and I take a lot of pride in it. And it's a great honor given me by Chief Barney, especially since I remember when he just came in the department, and I think we're going in the right direction with this department also.
How many years of service do you have, Chief?
47 this year.
47. You come from a family, too, not necessarily just in Mamaroneck.
Yes.
But there is a family service, I know. And how far back does that go?
Well, my father was in Largemont, but he was in Columbia before, back in the 1950s when I was born.
Yeah.
And we carried on. I had an uncle who was a past chief, and I had nephews in the department, brother-in-law, my daughter's in the department. So again, family tradition that pretty much is what this department is built on.
Yeah, it is. And you continue that tradition. And I don't know, are there any others coming up behind you?
Yeah, I do. I have a few more, and hopefully that tradition will continue. Yeah. Like I said, this year Chief Barney has given me one of the greatest honors outside of being chief. And
well, you deserve it, Chief. And it's a great night, and I'm going to let you go because I have Chief Barney here, and I want to get him in. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Now we're going to go to Chief Barney. James, come on in. Great, thanks, Derek. So we're joined here now by Chief James Barney. Chief Barney's the elected chief from Columbia Engine, a hose company, and the head chief, leads the parade with the Grand Marshal. So, Chief, why don't you tell me, how long have you been in the fire department?
I'm just completed my 17th year.
17th year, and you too come from a long line of Barneys in the fire department. How long does that stretch back? How many years?
Well, my father was fire chief in 1978. He started his 3-year term.
Yeah.
He was the first of 2 other chiefs out of our department.
Yeah.
And I also have 6 family members that are also, besides them, that are also in the department.
So right now, this is the largest family in the Mamaroneck Fire Department is the Barneys. Yeah. So that's a great tradition. And I also know a unique thing here is that Chief Barney is serving with Chief Yanuzzi, who was recently elected from Halstead Manor. And this is the first time in the history of the department that your father served with Chief Yanuzzi's father. So we had 2 generations of fathers and son serving the department. How is it to serve with Michael?
It's absolutely an honor with both of the chiefs that are below, just right underneath me. They work side by side with me every day. They pick up a lot of slack, and they are there every step of the way.
And we're also fortunate, just for those watching at home, that Chief Barney, when he's not volunteering, is one of our highest ranking employees at the Department of Public Works, and works very hard to keep the village clean, to keep the parks cut and everything ready to go. So, Chief, it's a great honor to have you here, and having been a chief myself, I know how much work goes into this, and now with 2 years, the thought of doing that for 2 years is so much, but I'm appreciative, and I know the community is. So I know you have a big night. You're going to the reviewing stand?
Yeah, I'm heading over there now, yes.
Yeah? Okay, Chief, and I know that you're busy, and I appreciate you stopping to talk to me.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on a good parade, all right?
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Ready? During the break there, we would just had the pleasure of having the Portchester Fire Department, which is one of the larger fire departments in the county, just passed by us. They were #1 to lead our parade, led by Chief Spasto from Portchester. They typically are always in contention for the most manpower and the best equipment. They bring a large contingent of people here. They estimated 60 attending tonight with 12 apparatus, and as usual, Portchester is got very well maintained, clean apparatus. You can see the unique thing there is on their ladder they have a little designation from the Grateful Dead, and the history is that the Grateful Dead back in the day played the Capitol Theater so often that it became their home venue, and they've named the ladder for one of the Grateful Dead songs. So there's a little history there with one of the greatest rock and roll bands in the history of really our country. So Portchester coming through with great equipment there. The rescue, heavy rescue. Portchester's been fortunate. They've had a surge in manpower, which is unusual in the volunteer corps right now, just for a number of reasons. Volunteering for the fire department has become difficult, but Portchester's been fortunate, and they have 2 rescue companies, and they're able to staff both of them around the clock. Always very nice apparatus. Followed by the Long Island Seaside Marching Band from Long Island that is here leading the Yorktown Heights Fire Department. Your honor guard passing right now. Chief Tim Menstrasti. Honor guard carrying rifles. Mamaroneck was very fortunate that when we had the Ida flood, the Yorktown Heights Fire Department, along with other departments, came to Mamaroneck and spent 3 or 4 days here. Especially helpful was that they brought their swiftwater rescue team here. So as the Mamaroneck firefighters were conducting rescues throughout the flooded areas, we had support from Yorktown. And Mamaroneck just went up to Yorktown's parade about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and we wanted to make sure that they had a prominent position in our parade, and they're up here #2. And they brought their dive rescue, which is hosting their swift water equipment. And that's what was operating here in Mamaroneck when the rescues were happening during that unfortunate event. Large truck. They just don't carry a couple things in there. They'll have boats, they'll have rafts, life preservers, all the equipment they need to operate in a swift water environment. Also followed by their ladder, 2005 Seagrave ladder, 10-foot, 10-inch height, so they're able to make it under our bridge, just barely. They're passing their way through right now. So we were fortunate to have Yorktown here with the swiftwater team. So much of the community was flooded, and as hard-working and dedicated as the Mamaroneck volunteers, they can only do so many tasks at one time. So we were able, through mutual aid, to call in a number of departments, but Yorktown here was very, very prominent, a lot of manpower, spent a lot of hours here on the scene, not only during the flood, but in the days after, when the Mamaroneck firefighters couldn't handle the calls because everybody had been working for 36 hours. So we're very, very grateful. Next up, the Emerald Society Pipes and Drums. We're leading the town of Mamaroneck Fire Department. Our neighbors, close working relationship with the town. We actually have some locations up on Richbell Road where the town line, the town village border for the fire district of the town of Mamaroneck and the Mamaroneck Fire District go right through apartment buildings. And over the years, we've developed close working relationship and respond to both locations. So I'm going to take a second here,
Mike,
and we're going to.
can I get on that side?
Sure. So we're joined now. We're going to be jumping in here a second with the mayor of the village of Mamaroneck, and I just want to recognize we have town of Mamaroneck with Chief Tom Broderick coming through. We're going to switch over. Thanks, Derek. So tonight we're joined by Mayor Tom Murphy, elected mayor from the village of Mamaroneck, and a very strong supporter of the village of Mamaroneck Volunteer Fire Department. So, Mayor, thank you for your support. Thank you for stopping by here and spending some time. Why don't you tell us what's important to you about the fire department?
About the fire department? Well, there's a lot of things that are important to me about the fire department. That it's all volunteer, and that's one of the few fire departments in New York State that are now all volunteer, especially down the lower part of the state. So it saves the taxpayers a lot of money. And also, what's important to me is that the fire department is a core of volunteers that we use in a variety of fashions. As you know, of course, they fight fires, but they also do good charitable work in the community. And when there's a flood, they're integral to keeping us safe, to keeping the streets clear, and to cleaning up. Most of the men and women have been in the fire department for a long time, and there's generational. Their fathers and grandfathers were in the fire department. So it's also a tradition that's very important in the village of Mamaroneck. And from that volunteerism, they set an example to the rest of the community. And the rest of the community is very volunteer-oriented, but I think that the exemplar of that is always the village of Mamaroneck Fire Department.
That's great. And you talked about the floods and the work at the floods. How many floods have you been through since you've been here?
Well, the obvious answer is too many, right?
Too many.
The two that really stand out in my mind are April 15th, 2007. That was the biggest flood we ever had. That was horrific. I know, Michael, you were very instrumental in reacting to that. And then the other one was September 1st, 2021.
Yeah, Ida,
which was now is the record.
it is the record.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to talk over the town of Mamaroneck coming through with great equipment there. Rescue 6, Weaver Street. So, Mayor, during Ida, really just unprecedented amount of water and the widespread damage here. What's changed? Where are we going from here now?
That's a good question, Michael. You know what I like to tell people? On August 31st, 2021, we had really no substantive hope for a massive floodplain. What changed is after Ida happened, I was very vocal. I got on TV. I was on a lot of the cable networks, talking about how the village of Mamaroneck really got screwed because we were supposed to have started the Army Corps plan in 2018, 2019, but the previous administration pulled the plug on us. The only way I could figure it out was out of spite, and we would have had started had that not happened. So because of the advocacy of the community and the elected officials, Senator Schumer jumped in and got us funded in a very innovative way that usually never happens. So that now we're going to be breaking ground with the help of God in December of this year.
That's great.
And then the village has done a lot of stuff too. We are going to be dredging in the areas where the Army Corps is not doing it. We bought an excavator. We're looking at changing our codes to make our codes more flood resistant. So we're doing everything we can, and we got to look at our neighbors, Harrison, White Plains, Town of Mamaroneck, and try to get them to understand that they have to keep their water in their communities.
Yeah.
Because everything flows down here.
Yeah. It's important too, Mayor, that the fire department has the equipment that we're going to need to fight this. And so I know that you've been.
That's a priority.
Is a priority.
That's a priority. And since I've been mayor, I've always told the fire department, if you need something to do your job, if you need something to be safe, we're going to get it for you. So that's not even going to be an issue. If you tell me you need something to keep the community safe and to keep the firefighters safe, we're there. And the board has been very responsive to that.
So let me just stop here for 1 second, Mayor, and recognize that we have the Harrison Fire Department coming through now, just preceded by the Nassau County firefighter pipes and drums. You can still hear them playing in front of them. Harrison and Mamaroneck have a long-standing record of mutually beneficial response, that they're responding to our calls, we respond to them. My company was, and still has a nickname, the Border Patrol, because Halsted Manor has been up there, and for many, many years, we were first due to Harrison, and now, because of some changes in the department, and the department has to adapt, that mutual aid response is really changing, so each of the 5 companies take turns going mutual aid to different areas where historically Halsted Manor would cover to the north and east, the Portchester, Harrison, and Rye. Now what we're doing is each company takes a turn. So
that's good.
Yeah, it is.
Gives everybody experience.
Gives everybody experience working with different departments, and so change is not an easy thing in the fire service.
No.
Everybody,
a lot of tradition and a lot of tradition. We've always done it this way.
Everybody wants change, but as soon as you try to change something, it's like, don't change that.
Yeah.
Right? But this has been a positive thing, and it's the fire department is evolving here in Mamaroneck because we have to evolve. We don't have a tremendous number of new volunteers coming in. The history was you couldn't get in the fire department because we were capped at so many people. And so now we have to evolve to continue to serve the community, and I'm proud to say that I see that evolution happening here.
Well, you have 3 great chiefs in office now. They're doers. They like their jobs, and I have high hopes for the future. But as you know, you always have to look at how you're doing things, and to see what's changed, what you can do better. In any, Mike, I know you have a long history in civil service and in emergency service, and if you're not improving, you're falling back.
Exactly. And this is a department that's constantly trying to improve, and I think we're doing a good job, and I think that the community recognizes it. And you can see here their support for the fire department, not just the parade, but that they want to support the Mamaroneck Fire Department after the parade. All of these people will be down supporting us at the Firemen's Carnival. So I'm just trying to see.
I can tell you from personal experience, I had a fire in my building where I live in November of 21. And it was right below me. And I called the fire department. And there were trucks there, I don't know, 4 minutes? Can't beat that.
And tell me, what happened at that fire as Edgewater Park comes by, and they're a longtime participant in our parade. What kind of fire was it, Mayor?
Somebody was smoking in bed.
Okay.
Yeah. And thankfully, the smoke alarms were active in the hallway of the building.
Yep.
I was just about to go to bed.
Yeah.
And I heard, and I didn't recognize it at first. I was like, what the heck is that noise? And then when I opened the door, I could smell the smoke.
The smoke detectors save lives. There's no doubt about it.
Without a doubt. I would have went to sleep, Mike. Yeah. It was right below me.
Yeah. And fortunately, having a hard time hearing over the loud noise. Here's another great volunteer fire department, the Ossining Fire Department. Normally come with a number of people, 30 plus personnel here, and strong tradition. 9 firehouses in Ossining.
9?
9 firehouses in Ossining, and they have a very, very strong and robust tradition of providing volunteer service. No career staff there. Very well respected.
Are they all volunteer too?
All volunteer. Right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 9, and those firehouses are, I don't want to say they're full, but there are a lot of people who want to volunteer in Portchester, in Ossining, excuse me. So Mayor, so the night the fire happened, you came out and you saw the firemen respond?
What?
You saw the firemen arrive at your building?
Oh yeah.
And what happened?
Well, they immediately ran a line. You know, some of the neighbors, we had extinguished the fire with fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
But it was still smoldering. We broke the window and black smoke was billowing out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there was my neighbor was in there, and she was originally survived, but then she succumbed to burns.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, she was. It's very sad. Very sad.
So Mayor, what else do you see about the fire department you think is beneficial? What are other aspects? The volunteering.
The volunteering. You know what's an aspect, Mike, that you actually are an exemplar of is mentoring. You know, you and I are now we're older guys now.
I'm not going for that, Mayor. Okay. So, right.
But you know, what I've noticed in the fire department is, you know, I don't want to get in trouble by being, but young men need mentors to look up to.
Yeah.
They need, you know, examples of how to do right in life. Yeah. And the fire department provides that.
Yeah.
And they've always provided that. And it's fun to watch. You know, you see the young chiefs now. I know that they were mentored by some of the older chiefs. You know, some of their parents were chiefs before. So the mentoring, I think, is important to me.
Well, we talked about that earlier. I had Chief Barney here, and this is the first time in the history of the department where Chief Barney, his father, and Chief Yanuzzi's father were chief at the same time.
Wow.
And this year we have their sons. And so this is the first time that we've ever had had that. Let me just take a look here and see. I saw we had Mr. Dellner coming through here.
I'm glad the weather held out for us tonight.
Yeah, a little bit of rain, Mayor, and but we're fortunate that we got through that. So we have Ossining, next Sleepy Hollow. We're going to have a little bit of a break here, I think, to let some of the traffic through on the post road. So we have to build these breaks in here so we can keep traffic moving through there.
Okay.
So what else, Mayor? What's next?
What next? Well, you know, the Village of Mamaroneck, we're working obviously on flood control. We just had the dog park open, which has been a real hit. We have over 200 people buy a fob to become dog park members.
Yep.
We're getting ready for the concerts in the summer. I think we're going to have 4 or 5 concerts this summer, which is great for people who aren't out in the Hamptons and are staying in the community. You know, I remember you telling me years ago that you never go away in the summer because what's better than being in Mamaroneck in the summer?
Don't want to be here in the summer. That's where I want to be.
Yep.
I'm not so sure about January, February, March. Our DPW, we had Chief Barney here, and he does a great job, but he can't do anything about the cold.
No.
So we get the snow cleaned up.
I know you're not getting older, but as you get older, some of us it affects.
Well, I'll let you know when that happens. So as we go through now, we have Sleepy Hollow and Purchase marching with the Yonkers Military Band, just preceded by past Chief Kevin Dellner. And Kevin's coming by right now, and his aide, his son, ex-captain Kevin J. Dellner. So I think they're just passing through here. Nice.
They have a lot of different camera angles.
What's that?
They have a lot of different camera angles this year.
Yeah. I just can't see.
Steven?
You're going to leave?
Yeah, I get to see.
No problem, Mayor.
You all right?
Yeah.
Steve,
Come
I
back.
got your water.
Have you after you walk down the avenue. So now we're joined by our state assembly person for Mamaroneck and the Sound Shore, but I just want to recognize first, we just saw Purchase come through with their antique apparatus, a Seagrave from 1957. A lot of their equipment is Seagrave, which is, you know, one of the preferred manufacturers for the fire service. Mamaroneck has some Seagraves. I've been to the factory. It's really something to see how they make these apparatus. And the apparatus, see there, from 1957, although it's not in use, I'm sure that that pump still works, and I'm sure that it could be pressed into service. But let's get to you, Steve. I appreciate you stopping by, and I know you're a big supporter of the volunteer fire service, and not just volunteer fire service, but emergency services in general. And just want to thank you for stopping by and stopping and marching.
Well, this parade is such a great tradition. I'm going to call you Chief. You wear many hats, but today you're Chief.
Ex-Chief.
Ex-Chief. And but this parade, and you look at where the fire departments are coming from: Nassau County, Orange County, Rockland County, Connecticut, far and wide, and a lot from Westchester. And it's a great coming together of fire departments, and a great celebration of how important they are.
And the biggest parade that you probably go to for the firemen, right?
It's the biggest parade I go to for the whole year.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And you're always here, and we're appreciative of it. So, did you finish the session up in Albany?
We finished the legislative session, and we certainly paying attention to emergency services issues. Working on one big issue working on is having to do with EMS service, and it's provided so many different ways around the state trying to sort out some of those difficulties, which is a work in progress. So.
And I know that you sponsored or worked on legislation for that. Tell me about that.
Well, one of the things is that some of the EMS services are quasi-governmental, and their employees were not eligible for the state insurance plan. We spoke to Civil Service and the State Controller's Office. Shelley Mayer and I worked together on this and got to them to change their qualification rules so that those workers would be able to qualify for the state insurance plan, which is important for keeping people, retaining EMS workers. You need some incentives, so that was a good piece of it.
And that's not just here, that's statewide.
Correct,
and
statewide.
The
yes.
problem is even more pronounced in other parts of the state where there aren't as many volunteers because the areas are bigger.
Yeah.
So I see just one sec, Assemblyman. I see we have Haverstraw. Just came through here. Followed by the Tappan Zee Bridgemen, who will be leading Bedford.
And, you know, among other things in the parade, we got our good share of bagpipe contingents.
Yeah.
A bagpipe is always a good thing in a parade.
Yo, you can't have a firefighters parade without the bagpipe corps. So what else have you been working on for the Sound Shore?
So, you know, big issue for Mamaroneck, since we're here in Mamaroneck, is flooding is such a huge issue. We were able to get into the state budget, the state share of the Army Corps of Engineer flood project, $17.5 million, all in one piece in the state budget this year, so no one has to worry about it. And the work can go forward, and it was a big priority, again, for both Senator Mayer and myself.
Yeah, well, it's important.
Governor Hochul and State DEC, they came through as well to make that happen.
Yeah, that's important because, as you know, the village can't sustain that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just too many times. So any support we can get to fix the problem, as well as from the emergency services, to have the equipment, it's important. So let's hope that this finally works its way through.
You know, we're at a firefighters parade, but as you know firsthand, the Mamaroneck Fire Department has been doing a lot of water rescue. You know, you don't think fire, but water rescue is a very important part of the job, and you've helped train a lot of the members of the department on how to do those water rescues.
Yeah, we did, and you know, you think fire, like you say, you think about putting fire, but rescue is something that falls directly under the fire department purview. So whether it's a water rescue, rappelling into a ravine, you know, confined space rescue, and now, unfortunately for the village, we've got to become specialists in flooding rescue. So it is important there. Let me just see who we have coming by here.
Going by? Bedford Hills.
Bedford. I'm just looking in the back seat because the people that are home are looking here. on the camera. And so we have Union Hook and Ladder Company #1 from Mount Kisco. We have a pretty good relationship with Mount Kisco. Believe it or not, routinely our Volunteers Engine Hose Company #3 will go to Mount Kisco to provide them support. So if they happen to be having an event that their firefighters will be out of, we'll send an apparatus up there to stand by in their quarters.
That's something. That's
Yeah.
a distance.
It is a distance, but it works because we have a knowledge of the area, we have people who understand the area, and then conversely, if we're having an event here, we can also call on them to come down. So we're not draining, it kind of just disperses where we're getting the resources from.
Well, that's great. And now we have Katona Fire Department. Here's more Bedford Hills.
I think I have there coming across the screen is North White Plains, led by Captain David Tomac. They've been at our parade for many, many years, longtime supporters of ours.
Mike, how many of these parades have you been to?
Oh, countless. Well, look, I'm in the department 40 years, so I think I've been to almost all of them, except for the few years that I was working upstate. So you try. This is a big event because it's not just the parade. The parade is here, but the carnival, and the carnival is probably our primary fundraiser for the department because we're all volunteers. And while the community supplies us with the equipment, we also need to do things just to be involved in the community. So a significant portion of the money raised here gets donated. Last year, I think we gave 5 or 6 scholarships to graduating seniors at both Rhinebeck and Mamaroneck High School. We have we give to the Burns Center. There's a long list. Our donation committee will meet in September and give out a lot of donations. Also, a lot of people don't realize that we do a toy drive at Christmas up to the Ferrari Children's Hospital.
Yep.
And we'll take a day and we'll go up there, and we have ex-Captain Hughes goes up there, and it's been a personal cause of his, and the department supports that. So we have a fundraiser here. It's for the fire department, but it's also giving back to the community, and we like to do that.
One of the great things about the parade is also it is a great message to the community how important the fire department is. And you look at the turnout, we have a very big turnout of spectators this year, and so they're enjoying it, but they're also learning about the fire department.
Yep, they're learning, and hopefully at that they go down, they support the fire department at the carnival. It's one time a year. I'm here my whole life, and I remember going to the carnival as a young child, and I see all the kids here, and they'll remember it too, so it is a good thing. We see here who we have coming through. Thornwood, led by the Pipes and Drums Police Emerald Society of Mamaroneck. Thornwood's led by Chief Thomas Olson. Again, longtime supporters here. My company at Halstead Manor had one of those relationships with Thornwood, similar to volunteers at Mount Kisco. You just begin to develop friendships, and you do events together. We try to do training together. So Thornwood, 20 people here, and they have a 1917 Model T Ford that was one of their earlier fire apparatus, and not in service, but again, the way these things were built back then, I'm sure that if they had to put it in service, they could.
I was talking to the Larchmont Historic Fire Department, and one of their vehicles is not here today because an electrical part went out, and it's a vehicle from, I think, the 20s, and they're getting the part out of somebody who does this work in Minnesota, a very obscure, arcane piece of equipment, so they'll get back on the road with the help from across the country.
It looks like we have an old hand pump there that's just past us. When these were drawn by the firefighters, almost 100 years ago, and would press volunteers into service, not just firefighters, but civilians who might be standing around to help pull that pump and push that pump up and down. So what happens during the off time when there's no session in play?
Working on legislation for next year, working on issues. Things are, I really go 12 months of the year in terms of intensity of work. One issue that you mentioned the Children's Hospital, but they're involved in an issue that I'm working on, which is trying to get awareness about the need for AED equipment at youth sports events to help save lives from the sudden cardiac arrest. And the Children's Hospital, they're involved in that issue as well. There are a lot of groups around. I work with a group called Saving Active Hearts, which is based in Rye Brook. But the Children's Hospital is also involved in the AED issue. Very important. We lose kids, and we shouldn't. And you need to have the equipment as part of the standard first aid package and make sure there are people there that are trained.
No, that is very, very important. And I know that where I work in Rye, that we're starting to put this out and get it out to all the fields. So it is something, and I'm sure in 5 years it's just going to be allowed everywhere. But hopefully we can get it faster than that, because we can't wait. We can't afford to lose anybody. Let me just take a look and see who we have next here. Rescue 75. At Stormwood, I think next we're followed by Kent Fire Department from Putnam County, and again, we have a number of members here from Mamaroneck who had moved up to the Kent area and become members in that fire department because they couldn't serve here anymore. And it's one of those relationships where all of a sudden we have a handful of members up there, they'll come down to our parade, we try to get up to their events, and it builds that relationship and develops and continues the camaraderie among the fire department.
But how many different departments do we have this year?
This year,
I big list.
I think we're at 29 this year, and typically we're around 30 to 33, sometimes a little bit more, occasionally one or two less. You know, it really depends on what's going on in the home department.
Sure. And
can they come, can they not? But this being one of the biggest parades in the region every year, just seems to be people want to come to Mamaroneck, and we entertain all of the marchers, whether they're firefighters or they're in the bands, down at the carnival. So we'll have a bullpen just for them where they can have food or drink. And just, I'm looking on the camera here, I can see another one of those. Looks like this was a horse-drawn cart at one point just past us, where, you know, we evolved from just humans pulling the cart to attaching them to horses, and some old equipment there. We have Eastchester, Kent passing us here now by our booth. Eastchester, a larger fire department with a dual fire department. They have a career staff, a fairly large career staff, but with some volunteers also, and so we're glad to have them here, and they're led by the Deputy Chief of the Volunteers, Tom Vissy, and they have the hose cart. 1894 is when the hose cart was in service. And it's good to see that equipment still saved and preserved, so people can look at this going down the road and see how it's changed. And it's passing by us right now.
Here we go. This is the one you just described.
Yep, that's the one we just talked about. Followed by a 1929 ALF engine, just passing us now. And again, we have just a little bit of a break here before the next band gets here, because we want to keep the traffic moving on the post road. The Mamaroneck Police Department is supported by the county sheriffs, come down and volunteer. So it's funny that you can have an event this large and the officers are able to keep the traffic moving. So I know it is a little bit of an inconvenience, but the officers do a great job, and we're grateful for the Mamaroneck Police Department.
So generally, the police departments, the individuals that come have done it before. They know the drill, they know what to do, and it goes very smoothly.
Yeah, well, I just want to recognize that was the start of the 3rd Division, led by past Chief Pete Primrose, who was chief about 2 years ago. His term ended, and also continuing a long line of family service. His father was a member of Hook and Ladder for many years, and his aide is ex-Captain Lauren Keller from Hook and Ladder. So, you know, we're thankful to South Pete. Pete's a very active volunteer firefighter, and I don't know how he does it. He works long hours, he's in EMS, and he serves the community for a long time. So we're next led by the St. Peter's Drum Corps that's marching in front of the Brewster Fire Department. Brewster Fire Department, led by Chief Michael Miller, be coming through with a tanker pumper, a Seagrave 2019. I don't see that. Here comes the chief, ex-chiefs. Auxiliary. It was a time when all the departments were supported by, you know, auxiliary, and it was the auxiliaries would come out and bring food, water, and other beverages to the firefighter fighting the parade. But you know, as the volunteer ranks of the firefighters died, so did the auxiliaries. You see that's a big tanker there. You know, for those at home, that's a truck that's a little bit different than what we have here in the village, the Sound Shore. In Brewster, they don't have hydrants, so they have to bring a supply of water with them. And so where our apparatus will typically carry 500 gallons, that might have 2,000 or 3,000 gallons in it, so that they can really get an initial attack. And then they develop shuttles to ponds, swimming pools, anywhere they can start drafting water, and they would bring a series of those tankers and rotate them through drop water. So we're fortunate here to have hydrants just about every 500 feet in the village of Mamaroneck, as in many places in the Sound Shore, and it's one of the key contributors to the village resident enjoying lower insurance rates. Not only the firefighters, because you can have all the firefighters in the world, but without water, there's nothing the firefighter can do. And that big tanker's passing by us here now. So actually in the village, we've had to use tankers recently at times when the water department, waterworks, has to change a pipe, or we have a malfunction in the system, a broken pipe, where we don't have water pressure to support the firefighting operations. So we'll request mutual aid from other areas that have tankers, and we'll have to go up to Brewster. We have to go up to South Salem, those areas that they have tankers. We'll bring them into the village to keep standby. There's never a moment that the village of Mamaroneck goes without the fire protection that they're expecting, and sometimes we have to go to those lengths to ensure they're there.
So when you do that, do they bring down personnel to run the tanker truck, or does the Mamaroneck department members run it?
They will. They'll bring their operator and their crew, and then they'll operate under the direction of the Mamaroneck Fire Chief. Just want to stop here. We have West Harrison, again one of the larger, still a very active volunteer force up there. They're fortunate, their residents are fortunate to have an all-volunteer department, and they're here, and they're on our mutual aid run. So you think it's still a ways away, but we need West Harrison here. And what the chiefs have done here over the years, they've pre-assigned who's on our mutual aid, and if certain calls come in, West Harrison will be coming, Purchase will come, and so although it seems a long ways away, once this type of call comes in, we know our fellow firefighters are coming. Engine 266.
Mike, I think they're buzzing you.
They're buzzing me. So our friends there. I certainly appreciate the buzz.
So, when you were growing up, how old were you before you knew you wanted to join the Mamaroneck Fire Department?
It was probably in my teens. I remember I grew up on Wagner Avenue, and Wagner Avenue is still the fire route for my company, meaning they come out, they go up Wagner Avenue. And so as a young boy, 5, 6, or 7, I would always get up. I could hear the fire truck coming, and I would go out and look down the window, and I would hear it coming back because the old Seagrave had a distinctive rumble to it, so I could hear it on the post road. And I think it was when I was 16 or 17, it's okay, I want to be a volunteer. And then our current chief from our company, Michael Yanuzzi, actually brought me into the company. And so that's how I got in, and that was 40 years ago. I contribute quite a bit of my professional success and my ability to manage incidents in my career to my service in the volunteer fire department, because when you're the fire chief, you're there, you got to make decisions. So you learn to make decisions real quick. And of course, my good friend Chief Yanuzzi will take credit for that, but he is the one who brought me in. So I see we have Carmel coming through right now, and I just want to recognize them because they have come a long way. Chief Bob Lipton, Fire Police, their pumper, 2012, 2014. And that's a fairly large department there. So they still have a very strong, active contingent of volunteers.
You know, one of the things that the public may not realize is that the equipment is very expensive, and while it lasts a long time, there's a turnover, and it's a big financial obligation of the municipalities to make sure that the departments are properly equipped.
It is. Let me just take a look here for 1 second. I want to bring up because it's a really important point. We have Ardsley being led by the Westchester firefighter bagpipes coming through here, but that apparatus today, if you're speccing a pumper, a standard pumper for use in one of the companies, you're looking at $1 million. And Chief, how you been? Thanks for coming. So, you know, with inflation, with everything, it's not only is it $1 million, but it's at least 18 months and more often over 2 years. So there's a lot of planning that goes in, and you know, although the apparatus still works, at some point you have to transition for what you're seeing on the screen now to frontline apparatus. And we never want to be in a position where you pull up in front of a fire or an emergency and that equipment that you're depending on fails. So, you know, the normal lifespan can be anywhere from 20 to 25. Some people, you can push it to 30, but certainly after 25, you have to transition and replace the apparatus. In a place like Mamaroneck and the volunteer companies, $1 million seems like a lot, but when it's all volunteer, there are no labor costs.
And it's over, it's used for 20, 25 years.
So the bond's 20 years. So I think it's money well spent, right? You have to have good equipment, and all of this equipment with the hydrants, with your turnout, factors in to the average homeowner's fire insurance rating. And with a lower fire insurance rating, like in Mamaroneck, I believe either we're 2 or 3, as opposed to an 8 or 9, the resident here sees a reduced insurance cost, right? And then it begins to add up, and if you're going to live in the village and you're seeing that savings year in, year out, over 30 years, it's a lot of money. So I see next we have my crew, Rye Fire Department, and long tradition there. We have a number of active volunteers that are still there. I see Chief Bokikio, who is a former Mamaroneck resident, grew up on my street. He was a few years older. Chief Bokikio's been the chief in the city of Rye for a number of years. Very, very active. He still goes to every call, and you know, we're glad to have him in the city of Rye. We have a dual
combination department.
Combination department. We have 21 career staff, and we're looking to increase that, but we also have a number of volunteers, 25, 30. Number of active there can be 10 or so, and you know, we're glad to have them. Led by Engine 191, we had a driver bring that up today. We have a couple apparatus that are being serviced right now, so because we're in close proximity to Rye, we brought it. They know if we have a fire, they're just gonna take the apparatus back.
So when I was mayor, there were 17 professional firefighters in Rye. The fact that it's up to 21 and you need more, I mean, at 17, it was important to increase the amount in terms of the needs.
A utility pickup truck in Rye, and then our big utility, 39, that we put specialized equipment on, the rope rescue equipment on there. We've also started a swift water team, and we've moved very, very quickly there. We now have, I believe this morning it was 22 firefighters and police officers, firefighter volunteer, career, and hey, Chief Cotter driving that. So we have a swift water team, police and fire, and we're working to be a accredited Type 2 level swift water team, and so my hope is by the end of the year they'll be there.
You've been a great addition to Rye, using your Mamaroneck experience there to help the Rye Fire Department.
Yeah, I love it, and you know, like I said, this is my 4th job in Rye, and I think it's going to be my last, right? So a couple more years left, but it's great stuff. Great police department, great fire department, and you know, it's my honor to be part of it. So I see we have, and I just want to jump in here. I think the Celtic Cross, that looks like Broad Channel coming through. Broad Channel down in Queens, they've been marching with us for many, many years.
And that's not close Queens, that's the other end
side
of Queens.
I can't see who we have here. It's gotten dark over there and I can't read. I know our mayor was supposed to come back, but something tells me he couldn't walk too far down the block without getting caught. So Steve, I'm going to ask you if you don't mind staying a little bit longer.
Mike, I'm always happy to be here with you, and
Yeah.
always happy to be at this parade.
Appreciate your support.
The other thing about the apparatus is the departments order the apparatus specific to their needs, the size of their firehouse, and how it's going to be used, because every community is different.
So we have Darien coming through right now. Very clean apparatus. Chief Brian Fansfort, 2006 Pierce engine, 2011 Seagrave ladder. It's important the public understands not every piece of apparatus can work in every community. So we've seen some ladder come by tonight that could be the perfect ladder, but if it can't get under the village train tracks, how useful is it? You can't have a village that only has a ladder on the side. And that type of scenario goes on everywhere. Every community is different. Some communities have you know, larger buildings than others, and so you need to have ladders that can get up as high as possible. And some communities are a little bit more rural, and they don't necessarily need that type of ladder truck, but they need a dual truck, a quint and a pump. And how many fire departments do you have? So you see another tanker coming through there right now, and that's from Darien. And I do think Darien has some hydrants, but in the north end, up near the New York border there, they still rely on tanker support.
Well, you know, in the Sound Shore, some of the building mix in New Rochelle, Portchester is changing, which means the future equipment purchases in those fire departments is going to have to evolve as well to deal with taller buildings.
It's got to evolve, and the hard thing is this: you need to not only think about today. It's one thing, we're speccing out apparatus for delivery 2 years now. But we want apparatus to last 20, 25, 30 years, and so very, very difficult to do. But when people put effort in, and you see the volunteers, they'll start on this process. The speccing of an apparatus in time to turn the department can be 16, 18 months, and typically requires a visit to the manufacturer coming on site saying, okay, what do you need, and going through different specs. And, some departments need a 500-gallon tank. Some departments, like we saw, need a 1,250-gallon tank. And then when you do that, how much room is left for hose?
Yeah.
So it's a difficult process. We have New Hyde Park coming through here right now. I see them passing the judge's stand. So,
but what you're describing is, in every department, how much analysis and thought goes into those future purchases.
Oh,
and so there's not an automatic thing. People are looking at seeing what's going on in the community, trying to plan ahead.
And then also, you build a truck now, but you don't know what that next piece of equipment is coming.
Yeah.
I go back 20 years when I was chief. All of a sudden, you have thermal imaging camera.
Yeah.
This is game changing.
Yeah.
Well, we need this. Well, we have a fight. Where does it go? So you have to identify a location on the apparatus, and it's got to be wired. Now that's a smaller piece of equipment. They've gotten very small. But you talk about swift water. All of a sudden, you say, okay, we've got to do something about flooding. Well, where do you put a raft on the apparatus?
Yeah.
So you have to get apparatus that not only will support today, but you have to anticipate what will the future be. And sometimes you buy apparatus and then 10 years from now, so we have to make modifications because the equipment is changing and we need to change. And so you have to have the equipment for that. And I think I want to say that this is Hastings coming through now, if they got lined up, and they're led by the Dixie Dandies. Steve, just help me. Hastings on Huston. Sure.
I think it's interesting for people to know that when they see an apparatus come by, they may not realize how much thought went into decision making on those specs, that order, and it's something people should be aware of. The thought goes into this.
There's a lot of thought, and it just doesn't happen overnight. So a lot of time, when we bought the fire engine for Halsted Manor probably 18 years ago, I went out to the factory with a team of people. And you have to.
What time is the parade over?
The parade will be over in about. Right. Thank you. So we have.
Everyone wants to be on television.
Well, they cut set. So it's a lengthy process, but all of the volunteers want to do one thing. They want to serve their community, and they want to make sure that they're getting the right piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Right, and that is it good now? Will it be good later? And that's the most important thing. So how can we serve our community? And part of that is speccing. If we had to pay somebody to do that, $40,000, $50,000 for somebody to go through all the process and do it. The volunteers are doing it for free. Yeah. All of these companies, I can tell you, winter nights, Tuesday, Wednesday night, new truck committee meeting. They sit down, they talk about the specs, they tell them what they want, they get the manufacturer reps in, this is what they can offer, they go back, they change it. So it's a lengthy process. I see now that we have, and as we are wrapping up here, we have Hawthorne Fire Department coming through that was led by the Tappan Zee Bridgman. Next we have Long Ridge, Connecticut, led by Chief Tyler Kosterlik. They brought a 1995 E1 manufacturer engine. Followed by them is Scarsdale Fire Department. And Scarsdale still have a volunteer contingent that only comes out when the career staff, they have a pretty significant career staff, but there are a number of dedicated volunteers in Scarsdale, and they come out when needed and when requested.
So they function, they don't really function as a combination department. They come out for special things, but it's mostly handled by professionals.
Yep, the professional staff responds to the call. If there's a need for the volunteers, they come out. But Scarsdale, you know, to have volunteers now, we don't see a lot of volunteers in Scarsdale because it is one of the more expensive places to live in the region. And with that, you don't see a lot of people who have time to work and then devote. The training requirements are significant. You know, hundreds and hundreds of hours just to become a certified interior firefighter, and then, you know, on an annual basis. So it's a lot. It's very, very taxing.
And also, you need a better volunteer, someone who works locally, who's around more than someone that's working in the city or out of state.
Yep, it's always beneficial, and you know, some of the communities like here in Mamaroneck, we're fortunate we still have a number of volunteers are with the DPW.
Yeah.
And they're in town, so if there is an alarm and it's a significant fire, we have a pool of volunteers that are ours.
Yeah, that are going to be there.
That can get there, you know, and you just evaluate what's important. And while, you know, working on the roads and the park's important, when the house is burning,
that's
gets
number
a little
one.
higher precedent. So, you know, we're fortunate we have that. And that's a trend that's been here for years and years and years. It used to be, you got into the fire department, you were working for DPW first, and that was an important thing. So I don't know who we have coming by here next. I can't read on that screen.
Scarsdale still?
Scarsdale, well, I think at this point we've hit the end of the parade, right? I don't think anybody else is there. So I just, Steve, I want to thank you very much, Mike, for coming. I want to thank the mayor. But I want to thank LMC Media, the whole team there. We've had probably close to 10 people. Derek is behind the camera and has been supporting me very good and been giving me a lot of cues all night. And I don't have everybody's name, but certainly I'm grateful. The Village Mamaroneck Fire Department is thankful. And I think the whole community is grateful to have LMC Media. They've been in this community, I want to say, 35 years, and I apologize if it's been longer. But LMC Media, thank you very much. And thank you everybody who's watching and everybody who's come out to support the parade. Please take an opportunity to come down to the Carnival. You know there's great food down there, there's good rides, there's entertainment, and your friends are there. It's a community event, and we're looking forward to your support. So on behalf of the Village of Mamaroneck All-Volunteer Fire Department, thank you for watching the 75th Annual Parade, and we look forward to seeing you at our Carnival. Thank you, Derek.